Since this channel is called Smarter Circuits, and since building and exploring smarter circuits is my raison d'etre, it only makes sense that I talk about circuits that are purportedly programmed to be particularly perspicacious. I am speaking, of course, about AI, artificial intelligence, a term you could use to describe inflatable tanks, but we'll get to that later. I have, up to this point, tried to avoid doing topics which are currently trending just to get clicks or engagement. Don't forget to subscribe. But someone told me if I wanted to get the views I need to make the channel successful, I have to do one of two things: talk about AI or do something provocative. I decided to do both. Later in the video, I'm going to flash ass on the screen briefly. Before that, though, we need to set up some rules and definitions. In order to establish what is considered artificial intelligence, we need to work out what we accept as intelligent, which can sometimes be a hard adjective to apply to some humans. In 1950, British mathematician Alan Turing published a paper called Computing Machinery and Intelligence. This is where the famous Turing test originates. If you are not familiar, I'll explain. If you are familiar, I'm still going to explain, but you are now permitted to feel smug, having already known what I'm about to say. The Turing test is the theoretical test of a machine's ability to imitate human intelligence, or rather, imitate being intelligent. Alan Turing is the man responsible for breaking the Enigma code, a mechanical cryptography technique used by the Germans in World War II. He accomplished this by building a machine called the Bombe, or the Bombe, or the Bohm, whatever. He built a machine that broke the code. Or did he? No, not exactly. He did not build a machine that broke the Enigma code. He built a machine that reduced the number of possible combinations of letters that made up the key the Germans used to encode their messages, which changed daily. A crib sheet, or collection of decoded code that had been worked out by looking for repeating phrases, was input into the machine. The machine drove a series of rotary character wheels similar to the ones used on the Enigma machine and found characters based on which circuit paths were electrified. It looked for possible key combinations that could output the known plaintext from the cipher. Mathematicians, a bunch of them, would then manually check each possible key given by the machine. So, was Turing's machine intelligent? It stored intelligence through a series of switch connections, not entirely unlike the neural pathways or circuits we use to remember or process information. So, by having information, it had intelligence, and by having intelligence, it must have been intelligent, right? We'll come back to that. First, I want to talk about a different form of intelligence. From 1941 to 1944, most especially D-Day, June 6, 1944, the U.S. and British armies deployed inflatable tanks and dummy landing craft in order to make their numbers look larger and to mask movements and preparations. This was critical to the Channel invasion executed on D-Day because the Germans hadn't bolstered their defenses as much in preparation for the enormity of force that stormed the beach. The U.S. and British military faked scenes for the Germans to observe and consider. They created artificial intelligence. I am, of course, being facetious, but the point I'm trying to make is that by loosening our definition of what is intelligence, we might mistake a clever machine for a creature capable of comprehension or being self-aware, something sapient. We may then further get confused by mechanically manufactured emotional dialogue and think the machine has feelings and could experience hatred, fear, or love. We might think the machine is sentient. The mistake was made when we made the philosophically grammatical but not grammatically philosophical error in calling something that imitates a human brain as being artificial intelligence in the first place. What many people think of when somebody says artificial intelligence is actually ASS, artificially simulated sentience, or sapience. I will, due to its present popular usage, continue to refer to artificially simulated sentience or just artificially simulated sapience as AI. I'll come back to the sapience and sentience shortly. First, with the popular usage in mind, let's ask the question. Is what we have right now with ChatGPT and all the clones thereof really AI? The short answer is no. It can't reason, rationalize, or retaliate. It can't confabulate, question, or comprehend. It does not fall under the category of having awareness and certainly does not have feelings. That impressive thing we are actually trying to get to when we talk about artificial intelligence, or at least when we talked about it prior to ChatGPT, the difficult thing to actually build is something analogous to a human brain. A large language model uses statistical data and weighted responses to very convincingly emulate conversation, very similarly to the spinning rotors of Alan Turing's bomb. But the illusion of intelligence comes from the conversations and text that have already been had and written by human brains. Now, this gets tricky. There's a weird line to draw here because that's what we do too. Every writer, every engineer, every artist has learned from past writers, engineers, and artists how to do what they do. In fact, most of them use techniques that past writers, engineers, and artists used and try to create similar or exactly the same thing as past writers, engineers, and artists. For an engineer, it's crucial to be uniform and repetitious, which creates a usefulness in AI we need to talk about, but later in the video. An original jukebox, if you remember them or have seen pop culture references to one, is a machine that can summon a record from a physical carousel and play it on your request. When a button is pressed, the machine locates the record using indexing circuitry, but the machine does not know the location, nor did the machine find the record. On the other hand, you could describe this as a certain level of intelligence, the way we did when we named smartphones what they are. We didn't call them AI, but we did use another word to mean intelligent in a very similar way to what we're calling AI now. Clever and perhaps a bit helpful, but still just a machine to amuse us or make our tasks easier. Now, I think I've made the case for why AI isn't that amazing breakthrough the hype or our grand illusions would have us believe, but now I want to make the case for why it isn't a bad thing. I also want to make the case for why it isn't a good thing either. I see technology the way fantasy writers see magic. Most of the time, it's neither bad nor good. It's all in how it's used. The easiest example of this is nuclear science. Cleaner energy, bigger bombs. Robots are another, and I mean real, honest-to-goodness robots. In factories, they can either take the danger out of a job or replace the worker entirely. That's mostly up to the guy that purchases the robots or hires the workers. Given that our current AI models are propagated with information and imagery that was created by humans, I do see the use of it to generate artistic creations for profit as being negative. If you're going to make money on it, hire an artist. The AI couldn't do the thing before an artist already did, and you can't say they didn't do anything to deserve the money because neither did you. And the AI doesn't have a stomach, a reproductive system, or a landlord. However, when it comes to the things that we want to be like each other all the time and are already wrought with automated ways of doing the job faster, say for instance writing computer code, it's invaluable as a research tool and a souped-up autocomplete. I have been a software engineer for a long time, and I have seen what AI can create. It's not going to take anyone's job. At best, it might remove a layer of laborious tasks that make some jobs take much more time. And that's only bad for one rather antiquated reason. If we could get over having a 40-hour work week, we could invite things like robots and AI to do our menial tasks while we conduct the creative, administrative, and strategic thinking. I don't know that we'll ever get there, but if AI is forcing us to a different labor model, that's where it's heading. Think about it. Eventually, if robots and AI could take most or all of our jobs, there would be no jobs to need done that weren't being done, and therefore no reason to withhold food, safety, or comfort from people for not doing them. I will say that what AI has done for me is make searching for referential information on code, and sometimes writing very repetitive code, a little bit easier, which the software I normally use to write code already did to a certain degree long before AI. AI has never come up with a new online business concept or app idea on its own. And if you ask it to, it's going to give you vague ways that people have come up with ideas or regurgitate existing ones. We are a long way from creating an AI that can do a specific task well enough to effectively replace a human, at least not one that couldn't have been replaced by another machine before we had ChatGPT. Could we get to that point? Maybe, but I think we'd also be able to reassess what we actually need to do with the majority of our time being alive, or evaluate judgment of people that don't like breaking their backs or brains for someone else's Mercedes. If we ever get there, I think we'll be closer to Star Trek than Terminator. Right now, what you need to know is this. ChatGPT has some intelligence already produced by humans, but is not itself intelligent, sapient, or sentient. A lobster is intelligent. It's aware of its environment, and it can solve problems in order to accomplish a self-motivated goal. An octopus is sentient. It can comprehend the tasks it performs, and it can feel pain or pleasure. You, I hope, are sapient. You are capable of hating lobsters for being so pinchy, fearing an octopus for being so wiggly, or loving this video enough to make a little number go up to promote my channel, giving me more of that sweet, sweet validation and gratification we sapiens crave so much we invented ChatGPT. I'm not sure what's coming in the next video or two, but I do want to let you know that I am planning a couple more build videos very soon. But just to be honest with you, these aren't as expensive to make. If there's a topic you'd like me to cover, let me know in the usual places. And if you'd like to see me goof around with a product or build, well, be patient or send money. Well, thanks for listening to me ramble, and I do hope you'll join me for future videos as I continue exploring smarter circuits.